Hi, I'm Anne, also known as Angelala. This is a brand new series of videos that I've been excited to do for some time now. There's a book I've been writing for a long time now, and it's mostly completed at this point, requiring some cleanups and artworks. Finishing touches, basically. The second thing I mentioned, being the artworks, is part of the reason why I decided to do these reference sheets we're gonna be working on today. Though in total, I would say there are three main incentives pushing me to work on them now. The first one being, my old pictures of my characters are, well, old. I can do much better now, and I want to display them in these new character reference sheets. The best example of decent but still rather outdated drawings is the series of artworks where I would draw each character full height with a background featuring some simple symbolism objects, characterizing who they are. They're sweet and I will use them as a basis, but there are some anatomical issues and clothes choices I would like to fix. Now, the second reason is as I've mentioned, am planning to draw some artwork for the book, and to be sure the designs stay consistent, I need to have a point of reference. That's the character reference sheets that I need. And number three, I want to create more short-form content featuring my characters to let more people see them and get interested. At this point, I've had the most success with Mamma Mia animation featuring Casper and Orphe, but I want to make more, and there are a lot of ideas to choose from, to be honest, and make them. But then again, references could help me speed up my process and, again, stay consistent. Now with my reasons out of the way, let's see how this goes. One more thing though that I think should be addressed is the setting. I'm not gonna go into any details, just read a very brief summary of what the story is about so we're on the same page. The Become Me book is set in a world where humanity escaped a great flood by pulling giant islands into the air with the help of a newfound powerful Watium, and now lived in two big unions called Carrion Union and Taria Union, plus the neutral territory to the side. These unions have lots of countries in them that are also sometimes referred to as areas. I have a whole map and everything, but for the sake of our story, we just need to know about the headquarter countries, Carrion and Taria. Most of the story happens there, and when people say where a person is from, they usually address them as either a Carrionian or a Tarian. The short description of the plot itself is as follows. When an accident happens, the victim is saved first, and only then do they look for the one at fault. Unfortunately, in the case of Tim Dockirson, nothing could go according to plan. The doctors reported that Tim had died, and the investigation didn't even have time to begin. A powerful, technologically advanced country called Carrion was attacked from within and closed its borders. Some people were unable to get out and remained trapped in their own country, while those who managed to escape moved to Taria, the nearest and best alternative. Now, after 5 years of preparations, Tim's sister, Ella, was determined to find a way to cross Carrion's border and finally found out who was responsible for her brother's accident. Since the closure of Carrion's borders, Yegor had been living alone. For reasons unknown to him, his family hadn't managed to get to Taria, and no responsibilities for the house, the garden, and the family business fell on his shoulders. Yegor had grown accustomed to his situation and didn't expect any changes. How surprised he was when a person from the capital burst into his life uninvited and offered him a job escorting a young woman who intended to try to return to Carrion. The disruption of his quiet life initially caused rejection, but the desire to learn about his parents' fate and bring them back pushed Yegor to consider the offer. Now that we know the basics, let's start drawing. When I started working on reference sheets, first things first, I downloaded a picture with a height ruler. I have characters of various heights and wanted to keep them consistent. One big flaw that my older artwork has is that characters' proportions vary, but not in a good way. For example, old Zara's reference, we're gonna get to her later, has her with a giant head that feels questionable as is, but looks even worse when I put her near other characters. By drawing sketches of all of the characters' main poses on the same canvas, I aim to achieve union among all of them, which so far has been of great help. The reference point of everyone's height was Tim, as he is the tallest character so far, along with his sister Ella. And as such, Tim Dockirson is gonna be the first character we discuss, even though at the beginning of the story his accident had already happened and he passed away. We see him through flashbacks relevant to the overall plot, and thus we get to know him pretty well. Tim is a programmer and scientist who successfully got a job at a prestigious scientific facility and had the chance to work on his own invention. Since the age of 3, he developed a habit of regularly visiting the nearest skating rink, fully supported by his mother, a former professional ice skater. In high school, Tim and his best friend even competed in a couple ice dancing competitions. While the mother was his incentive to do sport, his father partially inspired little Tim to pursue science. He used to work at Cube, the same scientific facility Tim would end up working at, and under his supervision, Tim began designing his own invention in the 5th grade. Figuring out how to format my reference sheet was somewhat tricky. Some people just have a headshot and lots of description. Some make one full-height pose and the main facts about their character. I personally settled on having one main full-height pose with the most common set of clothes, 3 additional poses featuring different outfits and stages in life potentially, and 2 headshots from the left and from the right. I considered doing full-height left, right, and back view, but figured it would be a big waste of time, since most of the time I can draw the body side view well enough. The face and hair, on the other hand, can sometimes cause issues, so having a concrete reference could help a great deal. As for Tim's main pose, I went with a waving, smiling expression to convey his cheerful, overall positive personality. As far as his clothes go, it's nothing fancy, but it does go along with the description of the book. For example, under the stomping of my black polished shoes and the hum of machine nozzles, I quickly approach a gigantic cubic building. Apart from the aforementioned black polished shoes he is wearing, I also imagined his average day-to-day outfit would be something simple. So here we have a dark blue t-shirt and black trousers. But obviously, as with any people, there is a possibility for variety, but this would be the most accurate average depiction. As for the other poses, the first smaller pose, going from left to right, is Tim ice skating. It used to be his favorite hobby back at school, so drawing him in one of his competition outfits felt important. And though at present there is no clear description of his outfit, there is a description of Zara's outfit, who is his partner in said competition. Her skirt aside, their outfits are similar. She wears a dark blue jacket with the same minimalistic style as the skirt. In Tim's case, he's wearing a dark blue, almost black suit with a bright blue bow. The second smaller pose is Tim in his scientist outfit that he got sometime after he started working in Cube. My white lab coat trails behind me as I pick up my pace. To distinguish Tim from other Cube scientists, I added these things on his lab coat's shoulders, similar to shoulder boards military have. Apart from looking fancy, it could be a way to tell that he is one of the lead scientists. The third pose is Tim's digital form. I can't elaborate much on this, but this concept was partially inspired by Portal games, and I'm quite happy with his look. The book description says, his palms looked as if outlined with a dark blue marker and filled inside with a light blue one. And then, a little later, it says, from head to toe, he looked like a drawn picture in shades of blue and black. He wore a shirt, also light blue, just a shade darker than his skin. His legs were clad in somewhat loose dark blue pants, and his feet were hidden in black sneakers, barely distinguishable against the surrounding dim darkness. A very usual outfit for him. Tim's side view headshots, as well as other characters' headshots that we're gonna take a look at today, had to be revised multiple times as I struggled to make them look decent while also keeping particular face features. After some trial and error, I figured that I should shrink the eyes and put them and the brows lower, make the back of the head a little bigger, and deepen the curve of the nose closer to eyes. That way, my character's side view turned out realistic, yet not scary. The colors were pretty easy to choose since I've drawn Tim before, as well as most of these characters at least once or twice. I've only adjusted them slightly when needed and chose some new colors for the ice skating design and the digital form. His primary colors are blue, more so on the darker side, and bright yellow. And even though I'm not planning on adding shading to any of the sheets, I still decided to add circles with featured colors. That way you can choose whether to copy from the drawing itself or from one of the circles. It could be especially convenient for small things like the mouth and the eyes, for which you should generally zoom in quite a lot to copy colors properly. One of the team's main signature attributes is his height. Karyanians are naturally pretty tall, but teams 2 meters and 5 centimeters or 6.7 feet are tall even by their standards. Next up we have Ella. Eleanor is a psychologist who loves stuffed animals and prefers fluffy, loose clothes. Most of her life surrounded by love and support, she grew up kind and sympathetic, always interested in the lives of people around her. Back in school, Ella was surprisingly successful in mathematics. Though it wasn't particularly useful to her, she could help her brother Tim quite a lot with his programming. After a while, solving equations of various difficulty became a way for Ella to relax, being the only hobby she had that didn't involve people. Though her brother's death followed by her family's urgent move hit hard on Eleanor, she kept going, dreaming of one day having her own support center. But even more importantly, she had to find out who was responsible for Tim's death. Since her body type and overall appearance is similar to her brother, I thought it fit to draw her next. Unlike her brother though, her primary colors are light blue with pinks and light purples. Her clothes choice varies, but considering her preference for everything soft and fluffy, her clothes are also mostly soft and fluffy. Her main pose is slightly awkward yet quite cute. Like she's eager to listen, genuinely curious what you have to say, and always at the brink of jumping up and squeaking of happiness, adding something interesting of her own. Eleanor's design for the first main pose is based on her description from the very beginning of the story. Making sure that all the necessary preparations had been made and nothing was missing, she quickly grabbed her pink cardigan from the coat hanger and put it on her shoulders of the fluffy cream sweater. When she stepped outside, Ella pressed the barely perceptible button in the middle of her dark gray glove on her right hand. The girl's favorite sneakers were slightly higher than usual to hide the rise, which with the push of a button was released from the sole. Ella remained pale, tall, and skinny. The chin was also father's, a narrow square with small roundings on both sides. As for the almond-shaped eyes and rectangular nose, they were both her mother's. Both parents had pronounced cheekbones, the father more, the mother less. Consequently, they became especially noticeable and deep in their children. Another important attribute is Ella's glasses, mentioned a little later. Ella removed her lenses and took out her glasses. Yegor, looking at them, wondered how big should the case be for such a miracle of nature. Black cat frame covered half of the girl's face, creating a sense of magnifying glass. Now that I'm writing this script, I realize just how many descriptions Ella got. Makes sense, I guess, but it's still a little funny to me. Anyway, as for her other poses, going from left to right, the first one is Ella in her for mission outfit, ready for any sort of running and hiding she might have to do if they get to carrying through the borders. The driver, if this word is used to a person on a bicycle, was a girl with a tight black ponytail. Her dark, blackish tinted hair was blowy behind her back. A black denim jacket dropped over the tonal sweater. Eleanor's clothes were dark and practical. The second pose is Ella as a child. There is no description of her in the flashback, so I went with the big, bright outfit she would likely wear. There is a description of her plushie though. The whale turns out to be quite large, nearly the same size as my little sister. The big head almost completely covers her face. The third pose is something I came up with without any specific book descriptions. The outfit is meant to depict potential clothes Ella as an adult would choose in a calm, cozy environment. Out of the photos I've looked over, I really like the idea of a dress that feels like a sweater. So that's why she has it now. Looks very soft and comfortable if I do say so myself. In terms of height, Ella is about the same as her brother, around 2 meters and 5 centimeters, or 6.7 feet. The third character on the list is Yegor. He is actually the one who starts the book and the only one of the main cast who hadn't been acquainted with anyone before the events of the main story. Yegor is an orchidist, specializing in pears. Having lived most of his life in a relatively quiet town, the guy grew up calm and reasonable. As the first and only child, he was always surrounded by his parents' attention. This resulted in Yegor's main vocation being their family's farmer business. He's never been particularly interested in computers despite living in a highly tech-oriented country most of his life, but has a pretty good understanding of cars and their components nonetheless. Since the closure of Karyon's borders, Yegor had been living alone. For reasons unknown to him, his family hadn't managed to get to Tyria, and all responsibilities for the house, the garden, and the family business fell on his shoulders. After 5 years of living alone, Yegor had grown accustomed to his situation and didn't expect any changes, though they were inevitable to knock on his door eventually. Yegor's main post is him reaching out to someone suggesting his help. He's a natural people pleaser, finding joy in seeing others happy, especially if his contribution was partially the reason for it. Don't mistake it for being a pushover though. His kindness is aimed specifically at people who he cares about, such as his relatives and close friends. And even though Yegor is open to all sorts of people, having no prejudice to anyone, his trust should still be earned. As for his base outfit, I've always imagined and drawn Yegor in a tank top and jeans, both mentioned in the text at some point. The guy suddenly felt cold despite wearing a jacket over a thick tank top. Another interesting detail is Yegor's unusual eyebrows. His overall look combined with his job made him very much like a Tarian, despite being a Karyonian. So I figured I could add a small detail that looks fancy and modern. The only small thing that somehow didn't make it loco is his eyebrows. Each of them had quite a visible stripe closer to the nose. As for the other three poses, the first one features an outfit that is basically the same as the main one with the addition of the aforementioned jacket. The second pose features Yegor cooking. The clothes are very similar, but the colors are swapped and changed even so slightly, the biggest addition being his apron. He's also holding a pear pie, referring to his pear orchard and cooking hobby. The third pose is a variation of his day-to-day clothes, especially for colder seasons. It also shows him working, getting ready to mulch around some of his pear trees. His hair doesn't change a bit, it's on the shorter end of what my guy characters usually have and is a little messy and spiky most of the time. Compared to Tim and Ella, Yegor is shorter but still quite tall, around 1 meter and 80 centimeters, or 5.11 feet. And now, let's move to the last character of today's video, and thus the last character I would consider as part of the main cast, at least as far as the first book goes. Speaking of that, I think it's important for me to clarify that I have multiple POVs, and when I was choosing who would be a part of the main cast, and consequently of this video, I mostly did so based on how much they appear in the book and how much they affect the story. Thought it would be nice to clarify that. Anyway, Zara is a traumatologist, jokingly called Cherry by friends, mostly by Tim, for her most frequent cherry perfume. The girl has always been naturally very energetic and initiative. Thanks to her extremely active political mother, Zara herself was involved in the organization of multiple events and eventually couldn't help but become part of one of the non-governmental organizations hosted by an influential philanthropist, Edgar Reagan. During Zara's school years, Tim got her into ice skating, and after some time they became close friends. What's more, they both even participated in a couple of ice dancing competitions together. The main outfit is not explicitly described in the book, similarly to Tim, but it does depict her clothes preferences. She mostly wears skirts or dresses, though sometimes pants can be an option as well, especially if it's objectively more convenient in a particular situation. Her tops often have pretty big chest cutouts, and she almost always wears high heels. Her hair is of dark chocolate color, often loose, but can also be tied up in a bun if she's working on something and hair could be an obstacle to her work. Her pose strikes confidence and her earrings look like cherries, representing her being called the Skirsche, which is cherry in German, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong, by Tim because of her cherry perfume. The first mini pose is Zara in her lab coat that she wears quite often, being a doctor. The description her look was based off of includes Now I notice her appearance, a sky blue knee-length dress with a pocket on the left chest. Half her legs are covered with long white socks. Shoes are grayish pink with small heels. Everything suits her, but I never saw her like this. Probably the neat bun replacing the loose hair surprised me most. Apart from the fact that my art version has tights instead of socks, it's basically the same outfit. People can have multiple ways to present more or less the same look after all. The second pose is a depiction of Zara's graduation outfit that is described as follows. Zara is wearing a short, tight black dress flaring into a skirt at the bottom. A neckline cut runs from neck to stomach, narrowing downward. Around the waist, simulating a belt, small flat stones are sewn on, brightly shining in the light like bulbs. The shoulders are covered by short sleeves resembling epaulets. The third outfit has multiple descriptions, though in some the hair is loose and in some the hair is in a bun, similar to the first pose. Slightly to the side, with his back to the newcomers, stood a female figure in a white medical coat, to whom the voice from behind the door belonged. Chocolate hair was tied in a careless, heavily tousled bun. Or, another description, without waiting for an answer, as if she didn't need one, the woman flung her coat and flew out with the cold, clear sound of heels. In a few seconds, the figure became a white medical coat flapping open, with everyday clothes visible underneath. Her long, flowing hair was disorderly, some strands trying to creep onto her face. In terms of height, thanks to often present heels, Zara is about the same height as Yegor, being around 1 meter and 80 centimeters as well, or 5.11 feet. Wow, that was a little longer than I expected. Oh, well done. I guess next videos are not going to be as long, as there won't be any need to get into the book's lore the way we did at the beginning of this one. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed it. With the main cast ready, in the next video we're going to draw mostly positive secondary characters. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to comment them down below. To be honest, reading the comments and replying is one of the most interesting aspects about making and sharing videos online. Also, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to see more content like this. See ya!